Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our fourth virtual town hall on racial justice. Thank you so much for being with us this evening, and we're happy to have members of our district leadership team and our Board of Education here with us tonight as well. My name is Jackie Merkel, and I'm the Assistant Director of Equity and Inclusion for the district. With me tonight is also Shannon Griffin, our District K-12 Diversity Chair, and Heather Cole, our District Diversity Coordinator. Shannon will be participating in the chat feature to help answer questions and provide additional information tonight. We are excited to welcome everyone here, and we're even more excited to hear from our public participants that have signed up to share ideas with us this evening. We want to let you know that this meeting will be recorded and posted to the Equity and Inclusion page on the website. The first two town halls are already up there if you would like to watch and listen in. Each town hall has run exactly the same in terms of the format, so the welcome, ground rules, community norms, and closing. The only difference in each evening has obviously been our public participants. So before we really dive into hearing from our public participants, we wanted to go through a couple of things first. The first is, along with welcoming you, we really wanted to move to important matters, and we would be remiss if we did not start off the town hall by really talking about the movement that the DRLSD students and alumni have sparked across Central Ohio school districts. And with them, in concert with them, we've seen additional parent groups, additional student groups like OLSD for Equality and SADE initiatives kind of crop up, advocacy pages, petitions, and groups to give a voice and experiences to push for needed change. And although it continues to be extremely painful to read these words and stories, I speak on behalf of our Equity and Inclusion team to say that we are extremely proud of our students, staff, alumni, and community members for their courage to speak out. We are continuing to read the letters and content of these pages daily, and we will continue to listen and learn from them. We know our students deserve better, and we will be working tirelessly to ensure that conversations are initiated, plans are developed, and changes are made to address these experiences. We have reached out to members of DRLSD and also been in contact with members of the SADE initiatives group as well as OLSD for Equality, and we hope to work in conjunction with them as well as others, including community members, students, and staff, to help us identify action items for immediate and long-term work. Additionally, we would like to share with you that the district leadership team has approved a full-time teacher on special assignment with the title of District Diversity Coordinator, exactly like the one Heather holds, except this newly created position will be a full-time position. This position was posted last Tuesday morning, and we have been undertaking the interview process over the last week. The district leadership team and the Board of Education has recognized that the scope of this work is really massive. And if we want to see the progress that we are truly striving for, that additional resources are needed on the Equity and Inclusion team. So we're thrilled to add this position, and with their support, we will be able to place additional resources behind professional development, curriculum integration projects, recruitment, hiring, and retention initiatives, as well as expanding community and student collaboration, just to name a few areas. So we wanted to also take a moment to briefly share with you some of the plans that are already in the works for the upcoming school year. And please know that a much more fleshed out plan will be coming in future weeks here through collaboration with stakeholders to ensure that we've received feedback on that plan. But 4 things that are already in the works. The first is around professional development. During the school year, staff members in our district have the opportunity to engage in professional learning in a variety of formats. Most commonly, this takes 3 different forms. So the first is self-selected courses that our staff can take that are offered for salary advancement and continuous learning credits on a variety of different topics. The second is building level professional development opportunities that most commonly take the form of book studies or job embedded professional learning. And the third is that we offer 3 district provided professional development days throughout the school year. This year, we're announcing that the focus of our district-wide professional development is going to be anti-racism and fostering a sense of belonging. So what that means is that all staff, certified, classified, and administrative, will be receiving training around topics such as implicit bias, microaggressions, explicit racism, and systemic and individual racism, among other topics. We will focus on language, practices, and age-appropriate ways to teach and lead for anti-racism. We want to assure you that this will be a collaborative process, which involves stakeholders at all levels, contributing to the formation and development of these sessions. We encourage you to stay connected to the district communications to learn more about these opportunities. The second commitment this coming school year is we are ensuring that Black History Month is visible, highlighted, and celebrated in every building across the district. This effort will involve resources for integrating not just the struggles, but the resistance, achievements, and contributions of African Americans. It is also important to us that while we work to ensure this month is expressly dedicated to Black history, that the integration of Black history will not and cannot be relegated to a single month. Rather, this will be part of our students' learning throughout the year. So we will be working with administrators, diversity liaisons, and building leadership staff to support what that looks like. In addition to Black History Month, we're working on collecting resources and supports for integrating learning during all Heritage Months into our buildings. Having said that, our third commitment is that the Equity and Inclusion team will be undertaking a curriculum project, a multi-year project, where we will work with teams of teachers at every level and content area to identify entry points for diversity, what's missing in terms of history and representation, where is fruitful ground for more integration, and what resources can we use to support us with this effort. This collaborative project, as mentioned, will happen over a multi-year period and will be a collaborative effort with teachers, staff, and families. Lastly, we would like to mention our Student Equity Steering Committee. This is a group of high school students that began to meet with Heather Cole at the end of winter, beginning of spring this year. While we only were able to have 2 meetings prior to COVID, these meetings and collaborative efforts will expand throughout the 2020-2021 academic year. The committee is comprised of a diverse cross-section of our student body, with right now approximately 4 high school students representing each building. We hope to see the number of students represented in this group continue to grow. Students in this group are growing their capacity for leadership in the area of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Thus far, the group has focused on building culture, strong relationships, and honest respect. But we see these students as leaders and a part of the collaborative planning process that we will work to empower as agents of change within our building. Our goal is to also begin a similar committee at the middle school level in the upcoming year as well. So for the purpose of tonight's town hall, we're really looking at listening to stakeholder ideas on actionable items that our district can take to advance the goals of anti-racism, equity, and inclusion. And while the Equity and Inclusion team will not be taking the stage this evening, you can listen in to the Board of Education meeting from June 25th, where myself, Superintendent Rafe, and Chief Operations Officer Todd Meyer presented on progress made on our 3-year equity plan that was established in 2018. We want to recognize that many of you in attendance tonight have been vocal advocates for anti-racism for many years. You have shown up to our diversity committee meetings, board meetings, one community conference, your principal's office, your superintendent's office, and so many other places to advocate for change. We are thankful for your voice, your efforts, your advocacy, and your spirit. For many others, this might be your first time tuning in, or maybe you're just starting out on your journey with anti-racism, equity, and inclusion. If this rings true to your experience, we are happy to have you with us tonight as well. It is a good reminder for all of us that we are coming from many different entry points, but we have a common goal: to make sure that our students feel safe, valued, and supported, to end the racism our students feel and they are experiencing. Unfortunately, due to COVID-19, we were unable to hold this town hall in person as we would have liked, but the topics we're discussing today and have discussed over the past 4 town halls are just too important to be placed on the back burner until we can meet face to face. So please consider this town hall the first of many opportunities where we will continue to engage collaboratively with you to actualize the schools and district conditions we would like to see for our students. We also recognize that while the focus of tonight's meeting is racial justice, issues of identity and justice are intersectional and intertwined. We must make every effort to root out racism, sexism, heterosexism, transphobia, xenophobia, anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, ableism, and any other form of oppression that exists in our schools and communities. So now we have a few quick ground rules that we would like to go over that will help the logistics run smoothly tonight. First is the camera. So as you kind of hover over your screen, you'll pop up this bar that looks just like what's appeared here on the screen. This camera icon, it's completely up to you whether or not you'd like to turn your camera on and off during the discussion. The faces will show up at the bottom of the screen as thumbnails. Public participants, same thing for you. Please don't feel any pressure to turn your camera on, but if you'd like to, this is how you do it. The microphone. We are asking that everybody please keep their microphone muted to eliminate background noise unless you are the public participant who is speaking or the speaker during our open time at the end if we have time for that. We're really trying to minimize that background noise. So public participants, before you come on, make sure that your microphone is unmuted so it will not have a dash through it and so that we'll be able to hear you. Third, public participants, you will have 5 minutes tonight to share your ideas with the group. We have included a timer on screen to help you manage the time, so please look for that as you're presenting. And lastly, the chat participation. So this little kind of text bubble here is chat participation. So for everybody that's listening in, you have the option of utilizing this chat feature throughout the event to add ideas, questions, or thoughts for consideration while the public participant is sharing their action items. So please, type away, like I said, add ideas, add questions. Shannon will be helping us to answer some of those questions in the chat. And if we can't get back to you or get an answer to you during this time, we will do the best to get back to you after this session. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Heather to kind of talk us through our community norms for the evening.
Hello, everyone. Heather Cole, District Diversity Coordinator. Thank you for joining us this evening. Real quick before the public participation portion, I'm just going to go through community norms that we can all agree to, and then also the format and flow of how the evening will go. The first community norm is to listen with empathy. And so, seeking to understand those different viewpoints. Oftentimes when we are communicating and speaking to people with ideas that might be conflicting is we're seeing it through our lens. And so we're talking about, we're thinking, no, that's not right, or this is how I would say it, or this is what I would have to say back, or we're thinking what we want to add to the conversation, as opposed to truly trying to listen from the lens that the speaker is coming from. And so listening with empathy would be our first norm this evening. The second one is to challenge ideas and not people. So if we challenge the assumptions an individual might be having while presenting their ideas, rather than challenging the individual themselves, we've found that to be helpful. The next one is to engage with others by communicating on topic and in a professional, respectful manner. So, this opportunity, and there's another Wednesday, we're going to have future opportunities. We want to make sure that any stakeholder that comes to these opportunities feel like it's a safe and respectful environment. And so that one will be helpful as well. And further, to go along with that, any attacks and profanity, whether it be written or spoken, will not be tolerated, as they ultimately threaten the safety of our community. The format for this evening, we went over it a little bit, but each public participant will have about 5 minutes, like Dr. Merkel said. There's going to be a timer there to kind of gauge your time. If you have not finished your thought, you do not need to cut yourself off. Please make sure that you finish your comment, finish that thought. We do have to be respectful of the time, but we certainly don't want to cut off your ideas. And then we also want to just make a note that each individual's comments that are provided this evening are their personal viewpoints and suggestions. This is an open forum, and all ideas are welcome, so long as they respect the community norms that we just discussed. After each public participant, there will be, as time permits, we never know how much talk from the equity and inclusion team there will be, but we can add comments and sort of provide information there in between the speakers a little bit as well. And then, of course, that listening, the last piece of it would be the listening participants. So throughout the evening, you have that option of using the chat feature to share your thoughts and your questions, your comments related to what the person is talking about. And then even if there is something that you want to bring up and make sure is heard, but you don't want to be speaking, that's the place to do it. There is that chat feature as well. So at this time, we'd like to invite the first public participant, Ananya. If you are here and able to unmute your mic. Are you here this evening?
Hello.
Hi, Ananya.
Yeah, I'm here. Hi.
Okay, you can go ahead and begin. Thank you.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Ananya. I am an alumni from Olentangy Orange High School, class of 2019. So the next couple of people, along with me, are all from a group called Sadie. I know that it was mentioned before in this conference. So Sadie, we are a student association for diversity, inclusion, and education. We formed as a network of students and alumni working together to push for systemic change within the Olentangy School District. Our group members represent 20 out of the 27 schools, and we believe that this comprehensive and collective experience helps us really understand what needs to be changed fundamentally within the district. We have set forth a comprehensive plan of 12 initiatives that we would like to see implemented within the school. The district has received this, and we have them all up on our social medias as well. These initiatives range from things such as curriculum change, acknowledging and removing appropriation of Native American culture, and just focusing overall on how the district can be more inclusive to the LGBTQ plus community, BIPOC community, and religious minorities within our district. So tonight, we're going to be speaking about our individual experiences, but also how that ties into the change that we would want to see from the district. So for me personally, my experience was that I was either one or the only Indian kid for all of elementary school. This led to having me having a lot of disassociation with my identity, feeling like the things we learned about, the books we read, the movies we saw, the people who taught me, no one looked like me, and we never learned my history in my class. This made me feel unrepresented, unheard, and it led to me being disconnected to my identity. When I finally did hear about people like me in middle school, it was riddled with inaccuracies. We started learning about Indian history, we started learning about Hinduism, but it was taught from a Eurocentric standpoint and from people who had never even met people like me. What I found, and as a person of color, this was so destroying, was that I saw my entire culture being displayed in a way that wasn't true to what I've known my whole life. Not only did this make me feel unvalid, but everyone else in the classroom who had never met anyone like me, who had never known my culture, began to know this as the only truth about my culture, and that would stay with them for their lifetimes. What I want to say by sharing this is that it is vital that, especially with English, history, and language teachers, that the culture that is being taught in your classrooms is being told from an authentic standpoint. It doesn't mean showing third person views, it means hearing the history from the people themselves, because the things that you teach about that culture can be the only information a person knows their whole lives. Moving from middle school to high school with my educational journey, I became a lot more involved in multicultural effects at Orange High School. I was in my face-to-face diversity club, part of Black History Month Assembly every year, and Multicultural Fair. Obviously, these were great initiatives, but that didn't mean that discriminatory situations didn't still fester at Orange. One thing that was very helpful for me, though, is having a great diversity liaison like Mr. Lewis. He opened and gave us opportunities to discuss diversity in ways that our school could be better and not stop at any point. The reason I bring up Mr. Lewis and diversity liaisons in general is that although diversity liaisons may be really well-meaning and good people, it has to be more than just passing out a pamphlet at the beginning of the year by diversity. Diversity liaisons have to be given the power and the training to know exactly what to fix within the district. That means looking at every single classroom, every single staff member, and seeing where we can improve to make it inclusive for everyone, regardless of who they are. So with this experience with diversity liaisons, with the experience I had of multicultural efforts, I had a lot of opportunities to come in contact with our Orange staff and discuss with them about how they're being more inclusive in their classes. I was on a panel of diverse students that was doing just this. What I found through this experience was that a lot of the teachers really did want to be more inclusive. They really did want to help make better environments, but they didn't have the training to do so. This is why one of the things Sadie really wants to focus on is mandatory training for all staff members. This means when they are hired and annually during the professional development days. This is vital because these discriminatory situations that you have heard from the Dear OLSD page from people all around, they aren't hypotheticals. This isn't something that we discuss if it happens. It's happening every single day. It's been happening. We need to find a way to address this. And if our teachers aren't even prepared to know how to address these things in their classrooms, this kind of behavior festers and continues for years and years. This is why training to figure out what to do in these discriminatory situations is vital for a lot of staff. And even potentially adding in a interview question when hiring your people and seeing how committed they are to diverse and inclusive effects. Because these teachers don't just teach your curriculum, they teach these people how to be good people, and you need good people there with good training. So with my experience, what I really want to emphasize is that these situations happen every day. Teaching culture happens every day. So we need to make sure that we're doing it authentically and in a way where every single student can flourish at the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Ananya. You know, I think the points that you made, a couple here about the first person, like, you know, when you're talking about the education and the content integration, how it's being done, and, you know, what resources are we bringing in to do that? So first person accounts and also own voice authors, I think, are just really vital in this process. And so, you know, I think we're looking forward to continuing the conversation with you guys so that there's that constant sort of feedback and insight and suggestions from this group as well moving forward, because I think you have very good ideas. Thank you. Let's see here. Who do we have next? Naomi, are you here?
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Thank you. You can go ahead.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Naomi Hammond. I am a current alumni. I'm an alumni of Olentangy Orange High School, class of 2019, and a current student at OSU and a member of Sadie. During my time today, I'll be speaking on our organization's 8th initiative, which is Black History Month. Personally, I did not learn too much about my own history in my 12 years attending OLSD. In fact, I've learned more on social media in my first 2 semesters in college than I ever did attend the school district. In my history classes throughout the years, I've only learned the most common events and key figures in Black history, like Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, Malcolm X, the Civil Rights era, and the rights we gained through this era. We hardly ever learned anything outside of these premises unless we were in an AP class or directly asked the teacher about specific events. And it wasn't until I joined social media that I learned about Juneteenth, Black Wall Street, and even the most important movement of our generation, the Black Lives Matter movement.
Okay, Naomi, I apologize. Are you on mute? Can you unmute your?
Oh, sorry, yes.
No, I think we're gonna have to back up about at least 20 seconds.
Yeah, of course. What was the last thing that you had heard?
You were talking about your classwork, the classes that you had taken.
Oh yeah, of course. Let me back up to that. All right. So it wasn't until I had joined social media that I learned about Black Wall Street, Juneteenth, and even the most important movement of our generation, the Black Lives Matter movement. One might argue that it's also the parents' or legal guardian's job to educate their children outside of the classroom, but is it not the school district's job to educate and, quote, facilitate maximum learning for every student? As an organization, Sadie is requiring a formal acknowledgement and celebration of Black History Month through the Olentangy Local School District and all grade levels. We are asking, 1, more detailed curriculum requirements that are more inclusive of Black history in classrooms. 2, school-sponsored events during the month of Black History. 3, a yearly mandatory Black History Month assembly organized during the month of February and in every school throughout the school district. And 4, protections for students participating in the assembly. Previously, members of Sadie who are alumni of Olentangy Orange High School have faced harassment due to their involvement in the Black History Month Assembly, and the school failed to protect these students, specifically referring back to an incident that occurred in 2018. Members of Black Empowerment Club and Face to Face Club organized the school's annual Black History Month Assembly, but were not allowed to specifically speak on the current events at the time that specifically impacted the experience of Black students at Orange and millions of Black Americans across the country. These students were forced by their acting principal and many diversity liaisons to change the program less than 2 weeks before the set date of this assembly. Students were not allowed to speak on the Black Lives Matter movement, Colin Kaepernick, and kneeling. Although these topics were going to be spoken about in a very neutral way, that was previously approved by the former principal before her departure. For these reasons, Sadie advocates so heavily for Black History Month based upon the experiences of myself and many others. By silencing a few of us, you are silencing all of us because of how it may look to others. Black history and, more importantly, the Black Lives Matter movement are not political topics. They are human rights, Black rights, and Black students deserve to learn their history unfiltered. By filtering some history, you are filtering all history, and you have failed as a school district to educate your students. Thank you.
Thank you, Naomi. We certainly are going to be celebrating Black History Month in all of the buildings. This was in the works now for about 4 or 5 months previous to COVID and shutdown. And so working with liaisons and working with building principals and building leadership teams to say, as well as students within that building to say, how is it that, you know, each building wants to have, what does that look like in each building? And so I think, you know, people that are interested to, you know, you would have had the opportunity, seniors, any participant can be involved in that process and let their voice be heard, because we think it is certainly an important part of the school experience. So thank you for speaking on that. Ashley, are you here this evening?
I am here.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I was trying to get, can everybody see me?
No, not yet.
No.
We can hear you.
That's totally fine. You guys can just hear me today. So as mentioned, my name is Ashley Sankey, and I'm an alumni from Olentangy Orange High School. I would like to take my time to highlight Initiative 3 and its positive impacts on a marginalized student's life, in addition to those who are non-identifying. Initiative 3, titled United States History of the Marginalized, 1450 to 2020, is a required high school social studies course that only focuses on marginalized students within the United States, starting with the Spanish and Portuguese enslavement of Africans in the 1450s and ending with increased xenophobia due to the current COVID-19 pandemic. This course will educate students on the history of oppressed individuals within the United States in order to gain a more accurate understanding behind their presence. The identities that are focused on include Black Americans, Latino and Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, Native Americans, religious minorities, and the LGBTQIA+ communities. As an Afro-Latino woman, my education on Black and Puerto Rican individuals within the United States during my high school education was minimal. Black history was conglomerated into 2 events, slavery and the civil rights movement, where we mainly focus on the emancipation of my ancestors and the ways in which Black activists like Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks initiated our civil rights. Puerto Rican history wasn't even treated in the same manner. In fact, I can't recall one instance where we discussed the importance of my ancestors within the United States. This changed, however, when I went to college. During my sophomore year, I took an African American Studies course, and while we were covering the transatlantic slave trade, my professor wanted to ensure that we were provided with an accurate account of the Middle Passage. She placed 4 of my Black peers in the front of our classroom, then turned off all the lights and closed the blinds. She placed them so that they would stand facing the back of the person in front of them, leaving no space in between. The environment in that classroom became eerie as she narrated. I can't recount every depiction that she provided. However, the words that I am about to express are just as accurate. Imagine you are chained together. You cannot move and you cannot see anything in front of you. You smell an ammonia odor as the person behind you urinates on themselves from fear and it runs down your leg. You smell excrement as a child chained to the leg of its mother uses the bathroom on themselves. You hear moans of the dying and the sick. A young woman is naked and chained to the floor. However, you can't see the bruises left on her breasts and vaginal areas. Above deck, voices are yelling in a strange tongue. For a brief moment, the commotion stops, and you hear a loud crash into the water. You assume that another person has thrown themselves over the strange object you are being held in. You start to wonder if death may bring you more peace than your life. By the end of her narration, no one was speaking. The uncomfortable position that my professor put my peers and I in was needed because I can assure you that every student in that classroom felt the anguish of the Black community. The Middle Passage was horrific. And yet in the high school courses that I was required to take, my ancestors' history was dumbed down and considered the triangular trade. And even to humiliate them further, the way in which this information was relayed made it seem as if goods such as pumpkins and corn were traded in addition to my ancestors' bodies. I can assure you that the goods crossing the Atlantic Ocean were enslaved Africans. With this in mind, I ask you, why is it that students who decide to further their education by attending college discover the true history within the United States, and in high school, they can continue visualizing the Middle Passage as a mere trading system? There should be no reason as to why my history or anyone else's is disregarded and treated as if we are a part of the past, a mere shadow of what we now consider the United States. Implementing this course within all Olentangy local school district high schools will allow marginalized individuals to feel as if they are no longer hidden within the education system. With this being said, I hope that the Olentangy local school district reconsiders its current operation regarding history courses and ensures that the voices of oppressed individuals are no longer silenced. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ashley. I think when you think about educating, about teaching and learning, really, it is so important to think about stories, right? Because historical knowledge being passed down is the stories of people over time. And so whose stories are being told and whose stories are being left out, and where is the power dynamic and whose role has the power. And so, you know, these are all extremely good questions to be asking, and will certainly be a part of that team, you know, that we put together, and the opportunities that will be in the near future and beyond, because just looking at this as a very comprehensive initiative to, you know, bolster and make our historical representation in all of our courses and all of our classrooms and discussions more robust and accurate and inclusive. And so we appreciate your comments. Thank you. Joshua Lane, are you here this evening?
Yes, I am.
Thank you, Joshua.
Okay, so hi, my name is Josh Lane, and I'm going to be a sophomore at Olentangy Orange High School in the fall. And I wanted to talk about how queer students are treated within the school as a gay student and how Sadie's initiatives, specifically 1, Code of Conduct revision, and 10, LGBTQIA+ inclusion, deal with that. My experience with homophobia really started in the later years of elementary, and I would have male students chase me around during PE and call me expletives and a lot of other traumatic incidents that were never dealt with. As someone who has been out as gay since 5th grade, I never felt safe in elementary, and I had to learn how to make myself feel safe. In middle school and high school, would continually have to voice how saying jokes like, "Well, I'm gay now, guess I better go stone myself." And when I was elected to homecoming corps, a lot of people posted on their Instagram stories, "We have 2 homecoming queens," and "Don't touch me, I don't want to get AIDS" are not appropriate, to say the least. And these comments are just a small symptom of the greater disease. The real problem comes down to normalization and the lack of this normalization of queer identities in school. For example, the Code of Conduct just lays out racial and sexist harassment as unacceptable, whereas homophobic and transphobic harassment was not mentioned once. This is why Sadie's first initiative is really comprehensive in that it lays out many minorities and instead focuses on teaching abusers/harassers why what they did was unacceptable so that it doesn't happen again. So for LGBTQI+ students, this means we now have a strong system that we now can be protected and we can go to the office and seek help. And in Initiative 10, it compensates for the certain areas in which my community has been erased from the school environment and how we can better include them into it, such as an assembly that addresses all forms of offensive language, protection for transgender students from pronoun recognition to bathroom use, appropriate locker room environment, which as a gay athlete is very important to me, additional classes like queer literature, which would be very similar to the Bible as literature, which is also a class offered at Orange, and recognition of LGBTQIA+ History Month in October. But I want to focus on health classes, because this is a really good conversation about normalization. I learned absolutely nothing about sexuality and gender identity from my health class. Most of the information I know is from the internet. I took online health and remember our STIs unit being more of an option instead of mandatory. And my problem with this is that sexuality and gender identity are human health. And you're going to have queer students who walk out of your high schools knowing absolutely nothing about how to protect themselves from life-altering diseases and how to get resources that help them. This is my problem, that LGBTQ+ students are going to learn more about being called the F-slur than how to take care of their health. This is the hypocrisy and irony about the school district. That's why I'm proud of Sadie, because of all the initiatives are about including and representing minority students at a basic level. Sadie does this for me. I have a lot of friends that are not as lucky as me, who are really struggling at home, who are hiding who they are, who are afraid of their parents, who are being really damaged on a daily basis, and schools need to be the first place that they know they are welcomed.
Thank you so much, Josh. To use your words, the things that you mentioned about your experiences and others as well, not appropriate to say the least. I would certainly agree with you. And I believe we all believe very strongly that our schools should be a safe place for everyone to truly be themselves. And so we really do want to work with you to make sure that that happens. Thank you for sharing those comments tonight. Mia, are you here this evening?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I am Mia Lapointe. I am an alumni of Olentangy Orange High School. I have spoken out about racism within the Olentangy district before with a group of Black students in 2018. However, we did not see the necessary change that was needed and called for within we didn't see any we didn't see any change from the way that diverse students were treated throughout the schools, and that is a big problem. So I am now here with Sadie, and specifically focusing on our Initiative 7, which focuses on how we as students could report instances of microaggressions, racism, homophobia, and have it reported to a specific person who can then delegate it to whomever to get justice for what has been done, instead of just being swept under the rug. So I have written a spoken word for you all to express the feelings many diverse students have had while attending schools within the Olentangy district. Walking through the halls, malice bouncing off the walls, we fought to change that. All we got was pushback and a meaningless slogan. Placate us with something you know will become a pun. Stay crusty, everyone. But that isn't even what we ask for. Is following through such a chore? What we want is accountability, stability, not constant liability. That's what school authority figures have become, numb to their constant inaction, having such a big impact on students. When there is discriminatory action reported, why do you hoard it? Keep it quiet and silent. Well, that just breeds violence down the road. Keeping victims from becoming survivors, not acknowledging all their hurts and confusion. If I tell my principal, a student called me the N-word, I should feel like I'm being heard, not that he won't do anything, but go to the student and have a word, because it's a he said, she said situation and many sides of the story. But how do you report your principal for microaggressions? School should be focused on lessons. But BIPOCs have to educate not only themselves, but others. It's fine we come in many colors. Duh. Yet it still hasn't sunk in. Well, why do I care? The school seems to not even be there. They say ignorance is bliss, but that's just the kiss of death for the uneducated who go out and fill the world with hatred. Remember, facilitate maximum learning for all students. Not whitewash learning, but maximum learning. And not just for male students, for female students, for non-binary students, for trans students. Not just for white students, but for Black students, for South Asians, for everyone. Thank you.
Mia, thank you so much for sharing that spoken word with us. I know that takes a lot to put together and also perform, and you did a fantastic job, but the ideas in there are what you are wanting to communicate, and I think they came through. You did a very nice job. I think what needs to be said at this point, just what's coming up through what you said, is I do believe that what needs to happen is just an awareness that the trust level from staff and administration towards students needs to be regained. And I think it's fair enough to say that we're going to be working on that and talking about that, and not just using words, but actions, and looking at policies and looking at curriculum, through multitude of ways, but there is certainly a sense of trust to be regained there. That's what came up for me as I was listening to you. And again, I want to thank you for sharing your spoken word. Mercy, are you here this evening?
I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
Can you see me? Okay. Hi,
yes,
everyone.
we can see you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Mercy. I'm an OHS alum, and I'd like to spend the roughly 5 minutes allotted to me generally talking about the stories that current students and alums have shared. And I'll finally touch upon this notion of institutional memory. And I'd like to start by saying that I came across the Dear OLSD page in the beginning of its inception. And I spent what seems like an incalculable amount of time just scrolling through the stories. And I wanted to take what I thought was initially a break from the deluge of people, of the constant reminder that people who make up this school district, whether it be teachers, students, or administrators, years after I graduated, still behave in a way that shows people who belong to marginalized groups that their lives are disposable in the pursuit of education. And these stories made me wonder if I also owed the stories of all the ways that students, teachers, and administrators treated me in ways that were so big, mistreated me in ways that were so big that they almost destroyed me, and ways that were seemingly so small at the time, but there's some right now aren't all that small anymore. And in thinking about the way that these students shared their stories, I'm reminded of the work I do now as a researcher, and my work mainly concerns storytelling. And it's not lost on me that we live in a society where our stories act as our currency and our stock price as individuals. And it's not lost on me that there's an overwhelming pressure on those who have been harmed to make our stories public domain. And I've been thinking about that spectacle of consumption and who it's for. And the way that so many students bravely reached within themselves to lay bare for you all to examine and pick apart so many moments that caused them so much pain is, on the one hand, very brave, but also it reminds me that these stories are not anything new. So many of the students who exist at the intersections of the Black, POC, and LGBTQ communities have shared these stories amongst each other as a way to keep our history of what it means to go through the Olentangy School District. And to that end, I encourage Olentangy to keep its own institutional memory. And by institutional memory, I mean a clear telling of where this school district has been and what it intends to do. And that's very important in our efforts to address the racism, homophobia, and misogyny that's rampant in this school district. And it's going to require a certain uncomfortability with the district's history. But I think when we do that, we can see the clear line between the choice made years ago to use Native Americans as mascots for two of the schools in the district, and to the choice that is still being made today to use those same images. There's a straight line between those choices and the treatment of marginalized students in this district. We need to make those connections as we think about how to move forward. And in creating this institutional memory of where we've been and what we intend to do, it's going to require us to be very honest with ourselves and be very honest of what we've done and where the school district has failed, not just the people who pay the money to people who pay taxes to finance the school district, but the students themselves. And you owe it to students to be accountable for how you failed and where it is you want to go. So thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, Mercy. I think one thing that we can ensure that the equity inclusion team can ensure our entire community is that we certainly do not want to shy away from the discussion, from creating opportunities for people to share the stories they want to share. and not to put them, I really appreciated how you have that perspective, not for them to be put on display, but to humanize ourselves in a way that we can make sure we are tending to everyone. And so, you know, the accountability piece, that's something we welcome. And making sure that this stays, I know I've heard a lot of those questions, is we cannot afford for this to be, you know, just temporary initiatives. And so, you know, we just really do want to assure the community that this is something that we are committed to. Absolutely. You know, we have made missteps in the past, and we accept those and want to move on and learn from our experiences. And I truly believe that this scenario where we are having community come together, all stakeholders come together, and be able to be a part of this is going to be helpful in the future. And so we're not afraid of conflict. We're not afraid of the hard discussions. We're not afraid to hear what, you know, where our missteps have been. And so we thank our community members and stakeholders for being a part of that process, and also for staying engaged throughout the process while we get it right, if you will. And so, like I said, continued initiatives for people to be involved. Thank you so much, Mercy, for your comments. Kevin, you are the last speaker this evening. Are you here? Kevin Seymour. Okay. If Kevin joins us, we can hop back to him. But what we'd like to do right now is, if there is anything that, I know that Jackie had used the toolbar previously to show you some different opportunities to be engaged as far as the camera and the microphone. There is also, if you go to the 3 dots section, yeah, some of you may have the hand raise function, which we're hovering over right now, but the hand raise might not be an icon in and of itself. If it's not, look at your 3 dots there. And once you have clicked on those 3 dots, then you should have a bunch of different options there: show conversation, raise your hand, and things like that. And so the hand raise feature would be right there. So using that hand raise feature, I guess, if someone has a topic that hasn't been discussed tonight, or has been discussed and would just like to maybe reinforce or comment on one of the public participants, we can do that at this point. And Jackie will be hopping in to moderate. We'll just kind of give people time to just seeing if anyone has any topics they would like to bring to the group through that hand raise feature. So I'm not seeing anybody at this point. We'll just kind of scroll through, see if anybody, we had several speakers, alumni from the Sadie group present, and then also Mercy. If anyone has any comments to piggyback off of what they had said. You can go ahead and use that hand raise feature again.
Heather, this is Shannon. Lauren
Okay.
said she had raised her hand. Lauren, are you there?
I am, yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I hope the students that spoke are still on. I just wanted to say, sorry, I'm getting a little bit choked up about this. I am a teacher in the district. I'm a parent of kiddos in the district. I'm a community member. I wanted to say thank you to all the students that presented their ideas and suggestions. And I'm proud to be part of the forward movement that Olentangy has in trying to make things better for all of the kiddos that are in our district. And just that I'm really proud of you guys for sharing what it is that you had to say and having these hard conversations and putting yourselves out there, because without you, we don't have this awareness about what's really happening and how students are feeling. So that's all. I just want to say thanks.
Lauren, thank you for your comments. Lauren was a diversity liaison from the very beginning, so we thank you for being a part of the process when we started. I don't know. I know that the Sadie group had spoken to this earlier as far as diversity liaisons, but for those listening in, we do have one diversity liaison per building, starting in the elementary buildings, middle school, and high school. So for one every building, and they have predominantly been in charge of 3 different areas, if you will. And so they hold a student group, and so that looks very different depending on what level we're in, and also kind of responding to the students that are involved, what they want to see, what kind of discussions they want to have, what kind of experiences they want to have. And so the mission of those groups is understanding myself and others to advocate for all. And so those groups happen at every building. They also work on professional development for their staff, getting in those conversations, whether it's staff meetings at elementary school, at the elementary level, or team meetings, or department meetings at middle school and high school. And then they also do, that community outreach piece as well. And so if you have it, wherever you are, whatever building you're in, we'd like to encourage you to find out who that diversity liaison is at your building. We update those every year on our website. And so obviously we're in between here, but that will be something that, you'll want to do, is be able to link up with that person as well, in addition to the building principal, to see how to stay involved in the work as well. Thank you, Lauren. I appreciate it. I see Ravi Krishna, Natala. You have a question, or you're raising your hand. Did you have a comment? I don't know if you're still here. If you just have the ability to unmute your mic. Okay, we'll kind of come back to you and see if you're still there. Kelly Livingston.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I have 2 things. I put my comments in the comment box, but I don't think that you can read them. Okay. One, I'd like to know or recommend that Olentangy do something more substantive to ensure that you have diverse staff and teachers. You have a diverse body of students. You need staff and teachers and staff that can relate to those students. I know that someone commented back like that you have gone to HBCUs and that you have a referral system, but those are real check the box activities. What matters are that the folks that are in a position to actually do the hiring are actually looking at diverse individuals, and that you have a requirement to do so. One of the things that I recommended is that Olentangy look into implementing a revised version of the Rooney Rule, which requires that you consider diverse candidates for openings. I'd also recommend that you have diverse hiring panels, so it's not left up to just one person, because we all know that if left to their own devices, people will always 9 times out of 10 choose someone who looks like them. So that's my first suggestion, is that you put in place something more robust, not something that, we could say, well, we did that, we went to an HBCU, but if you don't send someone who has the ability to actually hire someone on the spot, or say, hey, you're the one that's going to Liberty High School, then there's no meaning or no meat to it. One. Two, I would also recommend and like to suggest that Olentangy has a real problem here. I have a student that will be going into 5th grade. I also have a student that graduated from Olentangy and recently graduated from University of Cincinnati last year, and 1 or 2 that are at Bowling Green now. And you have long-standing race issues. So I'm wanting to know, beyond these town halls where everybody gets to debrief and get things off their chest, what type of analysis are you doing to look at what's going on internally? Because having classes and town halls where people get to talk is great. But if you're not doing any type of level of analysis of, okay, what are the trends that we're seeing? Are we seeing trends at specific schools? Are we seeing trends with specific principals, with specific teachers? Are we seeing specific trends with specific ethnicities? I've looked at the Dear OL SD page. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to do so. And it seems as though there's some systematic racism. The way that you address that is you do a long-term analysis of those types of things. You analyze how many claims are we getting of disparate treatment? How many claims are we getting of disparate impact? What were the results of the investigation that we did around those? Anything less than that, and you're not going to solve your problem. So I guess beyond, having, like, I saw the email that the district sent out about, we're going to recognize Black History Month. We're talking about having a class. What are you doing to fix your people, your administration? How can I, as a parent, feel confident knowing that when the school year begins, okay, we have some things in place here, and now folks know. So if we have this teacher that for 10 years has just completely disregarded instances of racism, or if 9 times out of 10, if it's an African-American student, they're going to give a harsher penalty, they know, wait a second, I can't do that anymore because someone's looking. What are you doing to assess and fix that?
Hi, Kelly, this is Jackie. Great comments there. You had a lot packed into that, but I'm going to try to address kind of the first 2 points that you raised. The first was around diverse hiring, and I really appreciated what you said in terms of, if we're doing all of these things, but they're not translating into results, that it can just become, a checkbox to say that we've done it. And, I can speak for myself, the Equity and Inclusion team, Chief Operations Officer Todd Meyer, to say that that is not what we want, that we really want true change in this area, and we welcome, the suggestions and feedback. So how you brought up, a version of the Rooney Rule, I know that this is something that has been discussed by district leadership, something that, is definitely in the stages of being thought through. And so I appreciate that you brought that up as we kind of consider tangible action steps that we can implement moving forward. Again, with the diverse hiring panels that you brought up, I think that that's a great suggestion to look at the tangible aspects of what that could look like in our buildings. For this upcoming year, we are working on implicit bias training for all of our administrators that are involved in the hiring process. We have created that training, and it is ready to go with all administrators before hiring season. We also are working on thinking about creating a version of that for all teachers that opt to sit on teacher hiring panels in the buildings. So that's something that we have been talking about to implement as a part of, thinking about the different biases and just choosing those who, look like us, or that, might be considered a quote unquote good fit for our team, and kind of breaking outside of those molds and addressing some of those issues that arise. So thank you for bringing that up around hiring. The second piece that you asked of us is to think about, what are we doing in terms of long-term analysis of trends and looking at data. One person that I would like to bring up that is a member of our curriculum team, Morgan Nagel, her position is Supervisor of Response to Intervention, or MTSS, Multi-Tiered Systems of Support. She is an advocate in the realm of equity and inclusion. Her and I have been talking about building equity data literacy and what that can and does look like, how to support our administrators and our staff with being able to analyze data, to cut it for different racial groups, different students of different genders, students from different ELL backgrounds, students with disabilities, to better understand the experiences that they're having in our district. So whether that's looking at discipline data, whether that's looking at attendance, whether it's academic. One project that we already have been undertaking is looking at our AP courses and ensuring access that is equitable across our racial and low socioeconomic students, because we know historically that there has been an underrepresentation nationwide for advanced placement courses with historically marginalized students. So we have been undertaking that project of identifying students, and we're going to work to expand that, thinking about College Credit Plus options, mentorship options, DACC placements, and things like that. So there's definitely a lot of room for us to grow and expand in terms of the types of data that we're looking at, how we are analyzing it, and then the decisions and action steps that we are making as a result of that analysis. So I would just like to say thank you so much for bringing that up to our attention, and it will be something that we are continuing to look at moving forward. Thank you.
Gotcha. Can we also, will you follow up and let us know? Because what I hear a lot, I'm an attorney by trade, so I'm always looking for keywords, is we're talking about. So that doesn't necessarily always translate into action. So when you implement these things, can you do something that kind of lets the rest of us know that you've moved forward in those actions and what those are? Otherwise, we're kind of left with, well, they said that they were looking at this, but we really don't know where they landed, both with the diverse hiring, as well as the disparate treatment, disparate impact, and disciplinary actions, because those are the three things that I have primary concerns around. If you could just follow up maybe in a letter to folks in the district to let us know where you landed after those talks, that'd be great.
Yes, absolutely, Kelly. We have been, again, talking about the importance of transparency with the community, notifying of the steps that we have taken, what we have found when we've conducted different analyses. And this is something that we are very open to doing, and we will be doing. The reason I say talking about is that, it's really, this is an ongoing collaborative effort. So until we have, formalized plans, which are going to be coming soon later this summer, after we've had the opportunity to finish out the town halls, meet with the students, continue additional collaborative opportunities with parents, with staff members as they arise, then we will be having a more formalized kind of plan and action steps that we will be able to and will be sharing with the community around these issues that have been brought up. So yes, that is something that we will be doing. So thank you for bringing that up.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks. Dr. Wise, I see that you had your hand up.
I do. I just wanted to take the opportunity. I've been reading the chat boxes, the chat box, and reading the various messages. And, I'm definitely the speakers that have shared today, as well as the past ones. I've been reading Dear OLSD, and I just wanted to introduce myself, that I'm Dr. Lakeisha Wise. I am a person of color. I'm an African-American woman. And I sit on the school board. I am 6 months into being on the school board, but there is someone of color that is on the school board. So I just wanted to make sure that those who are here were aware of that. I have my own children that are in the school district as well. And it's definitely, I have my own experiences. And so I just want to know you're supported. I'm here and I'm supporting definitely, the changes that we know that need to take place. So I just wanted to make myself aware or make myself known to everyone that was here. That's it.
Thank you, Dr. Wise, for speaking up. And we are so grateful that you are on the board and are passionate about this issue as well. So thank you so much for speaking up tonight. I know previously that Melissa Sankey had her hand up. Did you still have a comment? Melissa Sankey.
Hi, this is Jason Sankey. I'm here with my wife, Melissa.
Okay.
First, I'd like to just thank everyone for their comments tonight. My daughter, Ashley, she spoke earlier. And I just want to say, as a father, African-American father, I've dealt with racism my whole life. And I never thought that I would be in a position where my daughter would have the same challenges that I faced. I'm 46 years old, and I'm proud of her because she's fought through this. We moved to Olentangy because of the school district, and I've been disappointed, but I'm glad that this conversation is starting because it starts with a conversation. But conversation without action is meaningless. So let's just make sure we keep this going. I have 2 younger children that will be entering the school district soon, and I don't want them to experience the same behaviors that she experienced throughout her high school years. And one thing that I just want to say is maybe this will put this into context. If people who are not of color just close their eyes for 1 second and they think about a life where when they walk outside, all they see is brown faces. All of their neighbors are not like them. All of them are brown or black. You have to take out your trash. You have to go get your mail. How would you feel? And then you go to school, and in the school, you're one of the minorities. And while you're in school, you have to deal with the white racism. You have to deal with the black racism. You have to deal with racism as a whole just because you're a person of color. Here in 2020, society should be ashamed of themselves because this is the lives that our children are living. Our children are living in 2020. So I'm glad we're having the conversation, but a conversation without action is meaningless. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. That was very powerful. We really appreciate you speaking up and wholeheartedly concur. You know, an action, a conversation without action is meaningless. We completely agree, and you know that is why we are going to work, like I said, tirelessly to ensure that action is taken, that our students are not continuing to come to schools and communities where they are suffering from racism, from oppression, from marginalization, from other types of othering in our schools and in our communities. So I appreciate you sharing that. We also appreciate your daughter, Ashley, for speaking out tonight and being a part of the Sadie initiative. So thank you so much for that. Mercy, I see in the chat that you had a comment about implicit bias training.
Yes, I noticed that you guys said that you're going to install implicit bias training for teachers. I just want to point out that there's a plethora of work that has been done that shows that implicit bias training does not work. And to this, I'll point to a lot of the police departments recently where we've seen the fatal shooting of Black individuals and trans individuals and Latinx individuals. All those police departments had implicit bias training. And so I would challenge the district to, one, do a very thorough and very well-researched approach as to what it is they want to work and see what has been done. And two, when we're discussing trainings for teachers, I think we have to make a note that this isn't just a one-time thing. This needs to be continuous. And to also realize that it's not just teachers that are perpetuating these behaviors, it is students as well. So we need to make sure how it is we train and also empower students to call out this behavior and let them know that it's not okay.
Thank you, Mercy. Yes, to your point about the trainings needing to be continuous and being ongoing, we completely agree. our belief system is that diversity, equity, and inclusion is not just a one-stop event or conversation, that it is continuous and ongoing commitment to the work. So we agree with you on that. And talking about, our training for teachers next year, it's actually going to be training for teachers, administrators, as well as classified staff members, so custodial, food service, transportation, etc., around anti-racism, leading for anti-racism and anti-bias. So implicit bias is one small component of that larger training. The implicit bias training that I was specifically speaking about was a separate administrative training session prior to going out to hire. But I definitely appreciate your comments about the police departments, about, making sure that our trainings are very well researched, very thorough, and recognizing that the training is just one small piece of a much larger puzzle, and that in isolation, that you are very, very right about that cannot be the only action that we're taking and expected to have very large results. So I appreciate that, that feedback. At this point, I
would
think,
also, can I quickly add something?
Yes.
So the Department of Education has a database that looks at the racial makeup of every single district and the degree, and also the breakdown in terms of which students are punished for what offenses and who receives in-school suspensions. And if we're looking for some sort of data that speaks to the discrepancies in the Olentangy School District, there is already a database that shows this. The one thing that kind of felt off when looking at this data for Olentangy is that Olentangy doesn't report their metrics for harassment and bullying. And I wondered whether that could be something that the district uptakes. And to echo someone earlier who said they needed to see data and some sort of movement put forward to just document what is happening and where it's happening so that people know how to move forward.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more comment. And I'm wondering if A. Mehta still was interested in speaking. A. Mehta, are you with us?
Come on, Dr. Mehta.
Kariana Turner's hand is up also.
Okay, yeah, let's go to Kariana. Kariana, are you with us?
I don't see any other hands up besides those two, if neither one of them are here. What we'll do at this point then is just kind of go into our closing, and really and truly the first point that we wanted to make for as far as where do we go from here, really communicating that this is just a starting point for ongoing discussion, involvement, and engagement. And we'll be working on developing a plan of action for 2020 and beyond based on all of the opportunities for community feedback throughout the summer and well into the school year. We are aware of the Dear OLSD survey, like we had talked about, Sadie, these initiatives, and items that you have put forth today. We want to continue to work with these groups, also the parent advocacy group that is out there with similar requests. And we just hope to be able to collaborate with everyone. And also with our community at large, we hope to have roundtable discussions hosted at the district level to continue collaborating with stakeholders around what our plans could and should look like moving forward. As typical of a diversity committee meeting structure, we'll be providing the collected ideas that were shared tonight by public participants and through the chat feature. And we'll be sharing those with Superintendent Mark Ray for ongoing dialogue. and discussion and implementation items as well. The ways that you can stay involved. Absolutely, we are open to emails. Our emails are going to be at the end slide here. And, you know, if you want to stay involved, please make sure that you email one of us. One way that is for sure to be able to get all opportunities moving forward would be to join the diversity committee. And so in that case, if you are interested in that, please email me. My email is Heather_Cole, COLE, at olsd.us. That's just a way to continue the discussion, continue getting all the opportunities, and we can get you on that listserv. And then also we want to encourage you to keep learning and collaborating with us and with others in your community. That Juneteenth calendar that we put out, you know, middle of June there is one way to do that. There are so many resources going around right now. And so we encourage you to, you know, have these discussions. And you probably already have with your neighbors, with your extended family, with your immediate family and your students. And so obviously here tonight. So just kind of continue that learning and collaborating, and we're here with you every step of the way as well. At this time, we would like to end our evening with a quote. It is by Marianne Williamson, and it says, "In every community, there is work to be done. In every nation, there are wounds to heal. In every heart, there is the power to do it." So we want to thank you so much for participating this evening. We look forward to future work together. And thank you so much. This will end tonight's town hall. We have one final town hall on Wednesday evening, and then we will be sort of documenting all of our ideas and moving forward from there. Thank you so much, everyone.